Ever since my accident, I've been on strict orders to stay at home and receive care from a registered nurse who visits daily. Her name is Janelle, professional, kind, and incredibly patient. She's been an absolute godsend, especially since I'm recovering from spinal surgery and can barely walk without assistance. I live in a suburban neighborhood with an active HOA, and by active, I mean controlling. One woman in particular, who everyone refers to as HOA Karen, seems to live for confrontation. I'd warned Janelle once before about her. I told her, she might question why you're parked outside for more than 10 minutes, but just ignore her. Janelle laughed it off. I've dealt with worse, she smiled. But neither of us were ready for what happened today, as Janelle pulled up in front of my home, her badge clearly displayed on her uniform and medical bag in hand. Karen stormed out of her house across the street like a missile. I saw it all through the window. Karen's voice pierced the calm morning air. "You can't park here! This isn't a hospital zone! Who are you?" Janelle, polite as ever, replied, "Ma'am, I'm a licensed nurse here for a scheduled visit. The homeowner is under post-op care. Not my problem," Karen snapped. "I didn't approve this. You're not part of our HOA rules. This is unauthorized activity!" I could hear Janelle trying to remain calm. "I'm performing legally mandated medical care, and your HOA guidelines don't override state health laws." That only made Karen more furious. "You're trespassing! I'm calling the HOA president and the police." Janelle didn't argue. She calmly rang my doorbell. I buzzed her in, but Karen physically blocked her from entering. That's when I had to act. I pushed myself off the couch, gritted my teeth through the pain, and opened the door. "Karen, she's my nurse. You're interfering with my medical care. That's a crime." She turned to me, completely unapologetic. "This is my neighborhood. I have every right to question strangers here. You just assaulted a healthcare worker," I said firmly. "Step away or I'm calling 911. That got her attention. Her face turned red, but she backed off, just enough for Janelle to come inside. But the damage was already done, and I wasn't going to let it go. The moment Janelle stepped inside and the door shut behind her, she exhaled deeply and muttered, "I've been in tense situations before, but that woman? She's something else." I nodded, wincing from the pain of standing so long. "She's made it her mission to control everything in this neighborhood." Janelle began setting up my IV line and checking my vitals, but I could tell her hands were slightly shaking. She wasn't just annoyed, she was shaken. I picked up my phone. "You okay if I call the police?" Janelle looked at me surprised. "You want to report her?" "She blocked you from entering," I said. "She interfered with licensed medical care. That's not just rude, it's illegal." She nodded. "You're right. If she does that again to another nurse, or worse, we'd all be in trouble." I dialed 911 and calmly explained the situation. The dispatcher took it very seriously. "She blocked a healthcare worker from entering a private residence?" The dispatcher confirmed. "Yes," I said. "She also threatened to call the HOA president and falsely accused her of trespassing." The dispatcher assured me officers were on the way. "We'll be sending someone immediately." Less than 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. Janelle was still tending to me, but we both watched as the officer approached Karen's porch. She stormed out like she'd been waiting for this. "I knew someone would come," Karen said with an air of triumph. "There's a woman pretending to be a nurse and trespassing on private property. I demand she be removed." I wanted to scream, but I didn't have to. The officer raised his hand and calmly asked, "Are you referring to the woman wearing medical scrubs and carrying a clearly marked nursing kit?" Karen paused. "Yes, that one. She's a licensed healthcare worker performing essential duties in accordance with state law," the officer replied. "You prevented her from entering her patient's home, which is a potential misdemeanor offense." Karen's smile evaporated. "You're joking." "I'm not," the officer said. "And if you continue interfering with emergency or medical services, it becomes a criminal matter." That's when Karen changed her tone. "I didn't interfere, I was just asking questions." "That's my right as an HOA member." The officer glanced at the notebook in his hand. "Multiple witnesses say you blocked entry. That's not asking questions, that's obstruction." She was clearly rattled now. "But I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." The officer shook his head. "That's not your job. Step inside, ma'am. We'll be following up." He walked toward my door next. I braced myself for what came next. Officer Daniels knocked politely before stepping inside. He greeted Janelle first, asking for her license and credentials. She calmly handed everything over: state-issued ID, nursing license, and a copy of the home visit documentation. "Everything's in order," he confirmed. "We've had more complaints lately about HOA members overstepping boundaries, but this is the first time it's interfered with medical care." Janelle folded her arms. "I've never been physically blocked from helping a patient before. This needs to be on record." "I agree," the officer said. "Would you be willing to file a statement?" She nodded firmly. After finishing with us, Officer Daniels returned outside. Through the blinds, we watched him cross the street again, where Karen now stood with a second woman, the HOA president. Mrs. Lively. She looked just as displeased as Karen, but was trying hard to stay composed. I cracked the window slightly and could hear snippets of the conversation. She's making it seem like I assaulted her," Karen hissed. The HOA president whispered back, "You can't physically block anyone from entering a home. That's a huge liability." Officer Daniels was calm but assertive. "Ma'am, your HOA doesn't have jurisdiction over private medical visits. This isn't about neighborhood rules, it's about civil law." Karen protested, "But she didn't notify the HOA. "That violates procedure!" Janelle and I looked at each other in disbelief. "She really thinks she has power over healthcare visits?" Janelle muttered. The HOA president seemed to finally grasp the seriousness of it. "Karen, you need to stand down. This isn't worth dragging the HOA into a legal mess." But Karen wouldn't back down. She could have been faking it. She showed identification, credentials, and official patient documentation. The officer interrupted. "Your actions have been recorded. If you interfere again, you'll face charges." That was the last straw. Karen pointed at me from across the street. "I'm not done with this!" At that, Officer Daniels calmly pulled out his notepad. "Karen Moore, you are being cited for obstructing medical care. Depending on the DA's review, this may escalate to criminal interference. You'll be contacted for a court appearance." Karen's face went white. "You're arresting me?" "Not today. But this is a formal legal citation." The HOA president looked like she was going to faint. "Oh no. This could jeopardize our insurance." Janelle smirked. "Guess Karen just cost the HOA more than a few angry emails." As the officer handed Karen the citation, I knew this wasn't over, but the tide had finally turned. Karen was silent as she took the citation. Her usual screechy defiance had been replaced with a pale, speechless fury. Officer Daniels made it clear that if she came near my house during future medical visits, she could be arrested on the spot. The HOA president, visibly panicked, kept whispering to Karen to just go inside. When the officer left, Janelle and I sat together in the living room for a few minutes, both trying to decompress. "I never thought a routine home visit would turn into a criminal incident," she said, shaking her head. "If she had touched me even lightly, it could have been an assault charge." "I wish she had," I muttered, only half joking. "Would have made this easier." Later that day, I got a call from Officer Daniels. "Just following up," he said. "We're submitting the incident report to the district attorney. They'll decide whether to press full charges." I thanked him. "What are the odds she's held accountable?" "That depends," he replied. "But interfering with medical care isn't taken lightly." "Especially if your nurse decides to testify?" "I think she will," I said. Sure enough, Janelle confirmed it the next day. "I've already submitted my full statement. I even contacted my union's legal rep. They're backing me 100%. The very next HOA meeting, just a week later, was packed. Word had gotten around about Karen's behavior and the police involvement. Several neighbors spoke up, some in her defense, but most were done with her drama. One elderly couple shared how Karen had berated their hospice nurse just weeks earlier. Another neighbor revealed she'd threatened a physical therapist for parking too close to her mailbox. The board was stunned. Mrs. Lively, the president, took the floor and announced, "The HOA will be voting on disciplinary action against Karen Moore, including possible removal from the board and suspension of her authority until legal matters are resolved." Karen didn't even attend the meeting. She stayed holed up in her house, curtains drawn. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Janelle kept coming by without interference, and neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years began reaching out in solidarity. "I'm glad someone finally stood up to her," one said. But the best moment came in the mail, a formal letter from the county courthouse. The DA had officially filed misdemeanor charges against Karen for interfering with licensed medical treatment. Justice. The HOA removed her from any active duties. Her name became a cautionary tale around the neighborhood. As for me, I kept healing, not just physically, but emotionally too. And with Janelle by my side, I never felt unsafe again. Karen messed with the wrong patient. And this time, the system did not let her walk away.